Come on! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world, here I am, glad, proud, enthusiastic, ebullient, positively jocund, to introduce your wonderful, lovable, charismatic host, me!
My God, it's full of stars.
Let's cut right to the chase. Recently, I put out a show called where me and a very close friend of mine rip into music videos. If they're good, we will praise them. So far in episode 1, they haven't been that good.
This is one of those videos where they're like, let's take a load of fucking normal, ugly people and make them dance so they look stupid. And then juxtapose that with me looking sick.
That's exactly it, yeah. All these office workers.
Shame on you, Justin. Shame on you.
But the whole process, the making, the creation, the editing of that video made me think. People so far who have seen it have likened it to the very popular show Gogglebox.
This week, BBC Two showed Nigella back in the kitchen.
Have never liked her.
I actually thought she was really quite pretty when she had the dodgy tooth.
Well, it's because your mother's got a dodgy tooth, that's why.
Oh, God, you see?
Yeah, I do, because she's got a dodgy tooth.
Oh.
The point is, it made me think about the way technology has changed and altered entertainment, and even changed and altered the profession, the artistry of writing. If you consider that before reality TV, when there was no reality TV at all, there was a plethora, a vast selection of sitcoms, Twilight Zone type science fiction shows, any show, any genre, any film, you know, it all existed, but it wasn't real. It was the writer trying to in some way capture reality or manipulate reality or create a better reality than what actually exists. The world is not perfect, so why not create a perfect world with your art?
Let's hear about the kiss. So, okay, was he holding you, or was his hands like on your back? And, you know?
No, actually, first they started out on my waist, and then they slid up, and then they were in my hair.
Oh.
And then I kissed her.
Tongue?
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, my point is this. I looked up Gogglebox, and now I like that show. I find it very funny. I think the people on it are extremely amusing. But the show lasts roughly about 40 to 45 minutes. And what I read is that there is 50 hours worth of content, of footage, that has to be edited down into that 45 minutes. You're talking about more than 49 hours burnt and deleted because it wasn't good enough to make the final cut. It wasn't interesting enough. It wasn't funny enough. Now, before digital cameras came about, reality TV didn't really exist, and the predominant reason why it didn't exist is because to shoot something like Gogglebox or Big Brother, the famous reality show Big Brother, to shoot something like that on film would have been so expensive. If you know Big Brother, it's the show that lasts about 3 months and people are filmed 24 hours a day on multiple cameras. Now, to shoot on digital, you just set up the cameras and you film it, and it doesn't cost anything. You just hit record and that's it, right? But if you were shooting on film, if you put like Kodak reels of film into a film camera, you'd only have like maybe 18 to 20 minutes per reel maximum. So every 18 minutes you'd have to be swapping the reels, and every reel costs thousands of dollars. I say dollars because it was a big American Hollywood profession, the film business predominantly, but film reels cost so much money. So the idea of making a show like Big Brother would be ridiculous. No one would ever want to invest in that because you'd be spending so many millions of dollars just shooting the footage, and then after you've shot the footage you'd have to sync the sound, you'd have to go into an editing suite, which is more money, more time, cut all of the film like this. But imagine having to do that for every 18 minutes of footage on a show like Big Brother. It's crazy.
See, when women get together, man, they talk fucking, if not more filth than when guys get together.
Yeah, mate.
They talk about cocks and, you know what I mean? Unbelievable, these chicks, man.
They talk fucking proper grime, mate.
Anyway, coming back to the point, a show like Gogglebox is very, very funny. But what does it say for the future of writing? What does it say for the future of storytelling and creativity, especially in the medium of television or film? A writer like Quentin Tarantino has been given numerous accolades for his ability to develop and create characters who talk about normal, mundane, everyday things.
And you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Oh man, they got the metric system. They wouldn't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is.
And what do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
That's right.
What do they call a Big Mac?
Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they call it Le Big Mac.
But now that we have digital cameras and reality TV, and there's no end of people just talking about the mundane.
Alright, well you can walk into a movie theater in Amsterdam and buy a beer. And I don't mean just like a little paper cup, I'm talking about a glass of beer.
Oh, we look like a bad boy though, don't we?
Yeah, not a fucking terrorist though, Chris. There's a bad boy and then there's evil. Would you like Hitler?
One very good example of something that is not reality TV but is based in reality is the famous Abigail's Party. All set in one room, all filmed in one room. Anyway, the point is, I'm not going to give it away, but by the end, when it finishes, after the party you've experienced, you're left thinking, wait, what did that mean? What did that represent? What did that have to say about life, about culture, about society? It resonates, it stays with you, it sticks in your head, as opposed to a reality-based show that could just be like, we're going to go and film a series of real parties, and it's going to be fun, it's going to be entertaining. Very easy to do. So which is better in that regard? Watching edited highlights from a real party or watching a fictional party? Well, I would have to say that the fictional party is of far more worth and far more value. There's something that Ray Bradbury, the great, wonderful, incredible writer, said, writer of short stories, writer of novels. He said that when it comes to television, he wrote this in the 50s, he said that television, it appeals to the senses, but not the intellect. So for example, you see an advertisement, or even now you see like X Factor and things, they use bright colors, they use flashing lights, because it grabs your attention, it pulls you in, it appeals to your senses. The same way sex and food appeals to your senses, bright colors, illuminations, they appeal to our senses, but they do not appeal to the intellect. Good art, good writing appeals to the senses, but without you even necessarily realizing it, it gets into your intellect. It gives you wisdom that somebody else has learned. The same way a parent will teach their child things that they have learned throughout life, so too can a writer teach people with a story. Any children's story you're told as a child, like The Emperor's New Clothes, or The Boy Who Cried Wolf, or The Ugly Duckling, are all people who are writing morals that they have learned in their life and imparting it to you, the reader, the audience, whatever, as opposed to reality TV, which is just like, oh, this is funny, oh, this is entertaining, you don't necessarily have too much to learn. In the 90s, the sitcom was huge. Friends, Frasier, South Park, King of the Hill, Spin City, Ellen, Sybil, Boy Meets World, The Wonder Years, even kids shows like Saved by the Bell, Hang Time, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, you know, whatever, the list goes on. When people write and try to fictionalize real people, there is the famous quote, art reflects life. Now, if reality TV is reflecting life, then what is the need for art to reflect life? Or what is the need for art? Why have the art if we are doing it for real? Well, I would say the reason is because in fiction, you can create the perfect world. You can give morals where there are no morals. There is something embedded in us without question where we try to find meaning where perhaps there is no meaning. It's perhaps an anthropomorphic quality in us, an innate quality to find something human where there is nothing human. For example, when I saw the tsunami hit Japan, so devastating, so catastrophic, so traumatizing, I couldn't help but think about when in the Bible it describes the great floods, and people who follow the Bible believe that the great floods were sent by God because God was angry. And I sort of thought, well, of course, if you lived in that time period and you had friends and you had family and you built your villages, and then all of a sudden everything is destroyed one day and all of your friends are dead and your children are dead and your parents are dead and maybe you've survived, you would have to rationalize to some degree. Why did this happen? A flood just came out of nowhere. It's too painful to accept that it happened for no reason. It's far too traumatizing to have to reach inside yourself and say it happened just because. That's the most horrific thing. So it's easier to create a reason for it, to say, God was angry, therefore I can do something about it. I can be a better person, I can fast, I can pray. The point is that we rationalize. So to bring this back to reality TV. Reality TV is kind of like an entertaining newspaper. You open a newspaper and it's just a series of real stories. But if you see, say, a newspaper article that is child hit by a car and dies, okay, and that's the whole story, and it's not like there's a moral to the story, it's not like there's a reason why it happened or something good that came out of it, it's just a very black and white story. Kid hit by a car, it's a tragedy, the end. And that's kind of what reality, at least in the way we are given reality, that's how it normally comes across. Sort of black and white facts. Whereas in a story, in fiction, they can find beauty within darkness. They can find morality. They can have a world that exists in these interesting parameters where, for example, in a very ABC scenario, there's a good guy and a bad guy. And in the story, the bad guy learns his lesson or gets punished or gets defeated, and the good guy overcomes the obstacle, defeats the bad guy, and the good guy has a better life and gets the girl or something like that. Whereas in reality, maybe the good guy doesn't do well. Maybe the good guy has a miserable life and the bad guy gets everything, gets all the money, gets all the girls, has a wonderful life, sits in his gorgeous mansion in Tijuana with his harem of girls dancing around him, living it up, living like a king, living like some god in ancient times, right? The bad guy. That's reality. In reality, bad guys don't necessarily get punished. They don't necessarily have bad endings. But in stories, in fiction, we get to create worlds that are potentially superior to our own world. Now, why is that good? You might say, well, that's not real. Why should we be shown a falsification? Why should we be shown an illusion? Why not be given the truth? Well, because we can aspire to fiction. Ray Bradbury also said, because he wrote science fiction before men ever went into space, okay? And interestingly, the first men who went into space and went to the moon, some took Ray Bradbury books with them. Okay, and they said one of the reasons they'd wanted to go into space is because they read Ray Bradbury's stories when they were children. So he's one of the people who was a catalyst for the reality. He created the fiction, and then scientists came along, inspired by fiction, and turned it into reality. In Bradbury's own words, I had the power to dream, and then the scientists came along and put bones into the dream. Now, obviously, I'm not giving him credit for the whole space age. Isaac Newton had more to do with it than Bradbury. A great example of this is Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which I quote quite often. But Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy, regarded as the greatest tragedy ever told. But people love it because it's beautiful, not because it's tragic. It's because Shakespeare managed to find light within the darkness. He managed to find beauty within the sadness. He showed us something that is very common. Two people in love who are not allowed to be in love because of oppressive family members. This happens even today, where you might have two different families of different religions who won't let their children be together. And Shakespeare wrote about it a long time ago with the Capulets and the Montagues, who were feuding, those two families, and they wouldn't allow their children to be together. And what's the result of it? The children can't be in love, and they're so sad about it that in the end they die. These two young people who were not allowed to be in love, and as a result of it they take their own life. Now that's a sad thing, that's a tragedy, and it still happens today, and it's still a tragedy. But Shakespeare made it into something beautiful. He found the beauty in the sadness. Okay, but if that was presented to us as reality, if you opened a newspaper and it said a Christian boy wanted to marry a Muslim girl and parents didn't let them be together and they killed themselves, okay, and that was in a newspaper, you go, oh, or reality TV, oh, that's really a shame. Turn the page, next story, right? It's not necessarily going to be repeated, remembered, recited into eternity. It's not perennial, it's not immutable, it's just throwaway. Oh, that's reality, it happened, now it's gone. But art and the writer, and the role of the writer, is to take that reality and inject meaning into it. Something memorable, something we can learn from, and something we can aspire to. Giving us a fiction that is better than reality, so that we essentially have dreams to chase, so that we can improve reality. Lastly, if anybody says, how can you make a show like Music Video Mondays, a reality show? Again, there's room for both. I just don't like to see a decline in writing, or at least the caliber of writing, considering writing reached a point where it was so good. Where are the Shakespeares today? Where are the T.S. Eliots? Where are the Ibsens? Where are even some of the great writers who wrote television like Rod Serling, or even Sam Simon, who co-created The Simpsons and Cheers? You know, great writers, people who stood out. Darren Morgan, who used to do The X-Files. Great writers who are very moral and very understanding of the human experience, who were able to kind of highlight things that people all can relate to and learn from. I think it would be sad to witness a decline in the standard of writing as the rise of reality TV continues to rise. Anyway, that's it. I know I went kind of to town on the subject. These are just things that have been percolating within my brain, so maybe they can now percolate in yours. Have a lovely day, evening, morning, whatever time it is in your world, on your side of the screen. Ta-da.